Tell us a little bit about Badapple Theatre Company. When did it all begin for you?
So we've just had our 25-year anniversary, which is a bit of a shock that just to have been doing it for that long. But for the last 17, 18 years, we've specialised in touring to rural community venues, sort of non-theatre spaces. So we've been doing that for a lot of years and enjoying it.
I suppose there's a certain type of, because I do like theatre, my mum loves theatre as well. I suppose there's a certain type of magic, I'd say, to doing in sort of smaller, more rural venues, isn't there?
Yeah, totally, and that's why I got into it. The idea was that I've worked here at the Theatre Royal in York. I've worked for Hull Truck Theatre, and for me, there was a certain level of excitement of taking the whole theatre experience into a village hall. And I love it when people come in and they say, oh, how have you managed to do this in our hall? So we bring the set, we bring the lights, then the actors, even the curtains and the tickets and the box office, the whole thing. And it makes a complete experience for the people who come. So it's like taking the theatre out to the people who wouldn't necessarily go to the theatre. So that's what I'm all about.
Which is just a wonderful thing to do. Do you find often that people who've been to come and see one of your productions before, they tend to return and watch another one because they enjoy that intimate feel, I suppose?
It's true, yeah. We're really fortunate. A lot of our audience come back year on year. And like I say, 25 years. So, yeah, it's been a long time in the making, but we've got a lot of regular venues that support us and a lot of rural touring schemes around the country that we work with as well. And, yeah, audiences keep coming back. So, touch wood, we're doing something right.
Well, you're definitely doing something right, because like we mentioned, tomorrow night is sold out already. 25 years then, it seems like an incredible amount of time to continue to do it, especially in this current climate. What type of people make up the company?
So we're quite a mix of people. So I'm the main writer, but I work with two other writers as well. Richard Kay, who's also based in York, Danny Mellor, who's from Rotherham. So there's three of us in the sort of core writing team now. It's always comedy, I should say. It's never anything serious.
Comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it is sometimes a bit political, social political, but it's always politics by stealth for me. So you have to come and have a laugh first, and maybe you'll take something else away from it. So yeah, we've got a pool of writers. We've got a large pool of actors. So and they come from all across the country. The two who are on tour for us at the minute, Ellie Pawsey is from York. Rhiannon is from Bradford. So Yorkshire actors on tour this time. So that's exciting too. So there's a bit of, Yorkshire solidarity. Not that we don't employ anyone from outside Yorkshire, but it's nice when you've got people who are based local as well.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Is it a conscious effort to make sure it's quite a Yorkshire-based production team and performance team itself, or do you expand a little bit more? Is it just the right person at the right time for the right performance?
I'm glad you say that, actually, because it's totally that. It's whoever is right for the show at the right time. So it's we don't have a Yorkshire identity in the way that some regional companies do. Sometimes it falls that way, especially post-COVID. It's been more convenient to have people based locally because, for obvious reasons, you can get together, a bit more easily. But yeah, no, we'll work with anyone anywhere, really. Yeah, it's nice to have a pool. So our designer, for example, is Chloe Fundak on this tour, and she's from the Midlands. She's a recent graduate, so we're trying to expand to have a different team coming in for different shows.
Oh, excellent. Well, that sounds really exciting. When it comes, and I'm not asking this question for myself, by the way, when it comes to looking for new talent, what things stand out or make an individual stand out to you where you think, yeah, this person is the right person for this?
So for us, because we tour to non-theatre spaces, one of the things is that our performers have to be amenable to not having a dressing room and to be able to talk to the audience as they come in, because the audience will talk at them whether they really want to be talked at or not.
I shan't ask where people get dressed.
Well, we take all our own stage and curtaining and stuff. So it's not a lack of privacy issue. It's more that you're kind of public facing all the time. So it takes a certain kind of actor, and there's lots of actors I've worked with over the years who love working for me when they've got a bit more seclusion within the theatre setup, but they don't love the rural touring so much because you are quite exposed. The audience is only 2 or 3 feet away from you when you're performing. So it takes a certain amount of courage, a lot of energy. I like when I see performers in other shows, those performers who have a real direct energy with the audience and especially comic timing, physicality, clowning, all of that kind of stuff. That's where I get really excited.
And you've been doing it for quite a bit of time, as you've mentioned. What made you sort of fall in love with it and want to keep on doing it for as long as you have done? Because I suppose it's a long time to commit to anything in general, but especially when it's a career, something you do day in, day out.
Yeah, I was talking to your colleague before, and I wanted to be in film originally. So when I was quite young, when I was the age my son is now, I really wanted to be a film director.
Okay.
I think lots of teenagers do, and you can see you can go about changing the world in your own quiet way. And then I realised I wasn't quite the right personality for that, so I got into theatre, which I really love. I was lucky to have some great theatre companies around me. I grew up in Cornwall, and Knee High Theatre and the RSC touring companies, they were the kind of thing I would go and see as quite a young child. And they were amazing, absolutely amazing, like high quality theatre, like right there in your own hometown. And it had a big impact on me for storytelling of any stories, but also more political stuff as well. And I sort of fell into it. And then I went to do drama at Hull University. So I'm a Hull graduate, had a fantastic time there, and set up a theatre company to go to the Edinburgh Festival. And the show we took was a story about Amy Johnson, the pilot from Hull. Mm-hmm. And it was so successful, it went on tour again. And by that time...
It was fantastic.
I had a company without really meaning to.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not belittling the amount of work that went into it. We worked hard for it. But we were very lucky in the early stages that things fell right for us. It was at a time where people were investing in new plays and new work, and I was lucky enough to sort of ride on the back of that.
So you did the Edinburgh Fringe.
Yeah.
That was successful for you. Did you ever expect that amount of success to come out of it when you went for it?
No. I mean, when I say we were successful at the Fringe, we broke even, which for anyone who's been to the Fringe...
Well, it's fantastic. I work with a chap who goes to the Edinburgh Fringe as much as he can do, and he says the exact same thing. It's incredibly expensive to do it. So to break even and to continue a tour off the back of it...
That's
great,
right, yeah. And it is a great door opener still for our work now, mentoring other companies. And and I know here at the Theatre Royal in York, they have a great support of a pathway project, so you can take a new show with their support to the Edinburgh Fringe. I think it's an excellent thing to do, because you soon find out if you've got an audience for what it is you're trying to do and say. And for me, I've said this for decades, audiences are very much at the heart of what we try and do. For me, art is a two-way process. So it has to be a piece of art, whatever it might be, but then an audience that responds to that. So if you haven't got an audience, particularly in theatre, it's very hard to know the worth of what you're doing, I suppose.
Right, I'm going to press a button now, and it may or may not work. Oh, look at that. Dave, beautiful. So yes, you are listening to BBC Radio York, and I am joined by Kate Bramley, who is from the Badapple Theatre Company, who are back on the road touring their play, The Regalettes. Tonight they are in Sutton-upon-Derwent. Tomorrow evening they're going to be performing in a sold-out show, can I say, in Green Hammerton. And to tell us about The Regalettes is Kate, who I've been speaking to for the last sort of 15-20 minutes. But we've just got into a really deep conversation there, speaking about a variety of things. So if I'm okay to, we'll speak about the show in just a second. We were on about sort of how a lot of people find the theatre as an escape almost. And you agreed that, and you were happy that was the case. We spoke about how accessible it is for people, because ticket prices are quite expensive often. And I asked you about how you find pricing and making it accessible for your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you talk about that, really, because it is something we take real pride in, that our ticket prices are deliberately very, 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 very accessible. I suppose they're marginally more than you'd pay to go to the cinema, but you don't have to drive, and you don't have to park your car, and you don't have to do all of those things. You just walk out the door, 5 minutes down the road into your local village hall, and then you've got... what's taken me some years to explain to people is you've still got a high-quality professional theatre production with professional actors, the set, the sound, the whole thing. And we make sure that the ticket prices are really reasonable, and we are funded on and off by Arts Council England. We have received an immense amount of funding for us from them for this touring production, which we're very, very grateful for. We don't take it for granted. We're not regularly funded. We just get occasional project money to take something like this out. And for me, it's a definite pay it forward. We make sure that everyone who wants to come can afford to come. So we have to charge something because we have to, pay everybody and get there and get everything, balance the books. But I feel like if we are given public money to support the arts, then we pass that on to the audience so they support the arts as well. That's how my brain works.
And we spoke about, while Gloria Estefan was playing, the prices of some of the shows in London at the moment. You mentioned the Tom Holland production, which is ridiculous. I didn't realise how expensive it was.
Oh yeah, for Romeo and Juliet, so the ticket's available just now, £250 a ticket. And I'm almost tempted to see that for Tom Holland, but it's, especially if you add the commute from Yorkshire down to that sort of, But as I was saying, I have a child who's 13 years old, loves theatre, who would be absolutely ecstatic to see Tom Holland do a live show like that. But at £250, I mean, they are the top price of tickets that have now just been re-released. But it's a lot of money. It's a huge investment to see for a live theatre show.
It absolutely is, especially when I said to you earlier, you can go and watch him in IMAX for $7.99 watching Spider-Man when the next one comes out. But I think it's good that you want to keep it as affordable for as many people as you can, because I fell in love with theatre at a young age, I feel anyway. I don't go as much as I should go. But I think if it wasn't as affordable as it is how you're offering it, I don't think I would have ever been able to dive into that world of theatre and fall in love with it almost.
It's really important, I think. And I mean, we run a parallel youth theatre, and we have scholarship places available for kids whose families have financial hardship. We don't ask a lot of questions about that. If someone comes to us and says, I want my child to carry on with youth theatre, we can't afford it, we just say, fine, great, keep coming. Because youth theatre is where it starts if you're a young person and you think you might like theatre, or you just like hanging out with your friends and doing something cool, looking cool and telling stories. It has to be financially viable for people, especially in the times that we're currently living through. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's really important.
So tell us, the reason you're here today is obviously to speak about the Regalettes. Thank you, by the way. What was your inspiration for writing it, and where did you come up with the idea?
So yeah, this one takes us back to the 1930s, to the cinema, and I've always liked the look of that 1930s. The crossover of film noir, black and white cinema, all the sort of glamour and the way they're lit, and it's just the sort of striking sort of murder mystery style of Hitchcock film noir that then moved into some of the massive Technicolor films that we all still know now, Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz, all that kind of stuff. So it was like a golden age of cinema. And I thought in my head, as I often do, what would that have meant for people living in a tiny little fictional village in Yorkshire at that time? How much would Movieland have impacted on them? What if you ended up with some movie stars in your village, which, funnily enough, has happened for the people of North Yorkshire quite recently, hasn't it, with various film stars, Tom Cruise included, trekking about the North York moors, talking to people and, doing that whole thing. So I suppose those elements of things all came together in my head, and I thought, well, what if some famous Hollywood stars landed in this fictional small village in the 1930s? Yeah. What would happen? How would people react? How would they go on? And then that became a sort of a silly mystery story that the two girls who are the usherettes at the cinema try and unravel this sort of mystery they think they've stumbled into. But they basically think they've stumbled into a film, and it takes most of the play to unravel what they think has happened. And
it must take you quite a bit of time to write that. You went about setting yourself deadlines to get stuff done on time. I've got dyslexia, so I'm not really great at reading anyway, but I can't seem to let myself go into a book and let my brain travel and become the character themselves. How do you write for so long while also keeping yourself entertained? Because you are the boss, essentially, aren't you?
Yeah.
You've got to please yourself with the writing.
I guess, yeah, I do. But at the same time, I've got clean deadlines and I end up writing maybe 2 new shows a year. So it comes to a point, to be quite honest, whereas like with anyone's work, there's a deadline I have to hit and I have to have a draft of the show ready by a certain time, then it's not, you have to remember also it's not just me, it goes out to then a team of directors and actors and a designer and the technical manager and the set builder and, you know, everyone else who's involved in the process. We've got a great composer as well, Jez Lowe, and he starts putting the songs and music elements in, and then that feeds back into what the narrative does. And so I start the process off with a play, and then everybody mucks in, and then it comes out the end as the tour you see now.
Well, this sounds absolutely fantastic. So you are in Sutton-upon-Derwent tonight, you're in Green Hamilton tomorrow. Where else can people come and spot and see you in the future? Where are you looking to start playing?
So this tour carries on right through to the 9th of June. There are a couple more dates. Husthwaite is around the York area. Then we go up through Northumberland, right the way up to Aberdeenshire, Lancashire, right round all the doors until the 9th of June. And this tour does actually go out again in September, October of this year. And then we'll be back for Christmas with, we think, 2 Christmas shows this year. So just head to the Badapple website, I guess, and have a look to see what we're doing.